relationships. And the fact that people seek that out as a base mandatory isn't the worst thing in the world. Now, if you don't like it, don't like it. But don't put out the pseudo intellectual prank where you waste men's time and you treat them like garbage on camera and you do all these stuff to make a point that's invalid. Because all you do is made yourself look like an ass. And to the guys who participated in this, knowing what the fuck this charade was, you're also trash, man. Yo, get your standards up, niggas. Because the moment you do this whole game with the women is gonna be a lot easier. Too much sauce.
Too much sauce. Too much sauce.
Yo, that was a lot of sauce.
That was a lot of fun.
She had a lot of sauce, nigga. So today's topic, we got a video that was submitted by a viewer, so we're gonna check it out right now.
What's K Michelle's trauma?
Men.
Wow.
Like, of my pain. Didn't have anybody, knock on wood, no one close to me die or anything like that. Everything that I've gone through has been because of lack of self-esteem and men being in the middle.
Like
I don't think men are good people.
Wait, you think that now? All men.
I don't think they're good people.
Why not?
The reason for that, and I truly believe that, the reason for that is, like, for men to do things that they consider small in the flesh, of like cheating, you know that that's going to destroy your partner, but you do it anyway. That's not a mistake. To see girls come up to me, I'm the girl they come up to all day long crying. They tell me the most disgusting of stories that I couldn't even believe. And a lot of times men, the wrong man, will stunt your growth as a woman.
First and foremost, you're talking about men like women don't cheat. And you mix two things. You said man and lack of self-esteem. What I hear is lack of self-esteem. If you don't have lack of self-esteem, no man's gonna do nothing to you. Self-esteem, that's your business. That's you. Not him. Not man, that's you. Maybe you ain't shit. The common denominator about all the men that dated you and that ain't shit and that gave you that is you.
I think she's someone who's been hurt.
Yes.
And I think sometimes when people are hurt often and they fall into these negative dating patterns, they begin to engage in bad forms of self-preservation. And how she engages in self-preservation is that she tells herself that all men are bad. Therefore, when men do behave badly, she's like, oh, this is to be expected. It's in their nature. And so I think this is a weird form of self-sabotage that she engages in, just to fend off people from seeing who she really is, which is a hurt, vulnerable woman.
Yeah.
What can somebody do to change your perception, or is that something that you feel you just gonna carry the rest of your life?
Every day, I'm gonna see a woman when I come out of here, and she's gonna cry. So if every day you're approached like, this, how am I supposed to be like, oh, it's good men? Because I don't know them. I haven't met them, other than my grandfather.
It's not because you don't encounter them that they don't exist. The same way it's not because you live in Atlanta that snow doesn't exist, okay? And I'm sure that in Atlanta, there are plenty of good men. They're just not in your vicinity, or you are not opening your eyes to them.
dude. No, you alright?
them because subconsciously you are attracting a certain type of male and you're showing disinterest into the men that actually are very kind and are very generous. So you're getting hurt, right? You're getting hurt in that process.
But it's self-inflicted.
But it is self-inflicted because you chose to get with that man.
You did that to you, boo.
You know what I mean? Like if you choose, you know what I'm saying? If you choose to apply for a law firm and law firm's got hundreds of offers and then you don't get the job, well, you chose to apply for that law firm. You could have applied at other places.
If you choose to play music and you choose the Beastie Boys, well, chances are you're gonna get sabotaged.
I don't know what that means.
There's a song that they play. When I hear a black and white person sing,
That was dumb.
because they never seen one. All they see is on TV. That's the same rhetoric. That's the same thing.
Are you in a relationship now, though?
Yeah, I'm in a relationship
And what
now,
about
and
him?
he has his ways with him. And I'm very cold. I'm very, I'm very like
Wall up.
like that. Yeah, I'm like that.
Remember what I said earlier about the fact that she's putting up a facade, but on the inside she's some type of way.
It's
Even
fucked up
to the
because-
person that she's intimate with, who she's in a relationship with, she's showing that cold exterior to preserve what's really happening on the inside, which is a lot of pain.
She's gonna sabotage that relationship. Then the man's gonna end up leaving, and it's gonna be like, see, it's the man. No, it's you. It's you.
Have you ever cheated in a
That's
relationship?
exactly what I was about to
Yeah,
ask.
I cheated.
Who'd have guessed? Who'd have guessed that the girl that was out here yelling, yo, men ain't shit, turns out to perpetuate the exact same behavior.
But she's probably gonna say that. You didn't let her finish. She probably said like, yeah, I cheated after he cheated on me.
I cheated after I was cheated on.
Cause she has a reason. Thank you. Voila.
If you think that justifies what you did or makes it any less worse, you are lying to yourself and you're just justifying your negative behavior. In fact, I actually think what you did is worse because you didn't do it because you wanted something else. You did it for petty reasons to get back at the person.
Are you a Pisces?
I'm a Pisces.
I'm a Pisces
Of
too.
course you're a Pisces.
Wow! Why do you do that shit? Why do? Oh, are you a Pisces?
You're not a Pisces. You're a Pisces shit.
Of course.
I'm sorry, bro.
Are you in a relationship now, though?
Yeah, I'm in a relationship
And what
now,
about
and
him?
he has his ways with him. But the thing is, we've been friends for like 20 years. So I met him. I was the girl in high school that he always wanted. So
Remember what I told you? It's not that she can't find a good man; it's that she's been ignoring them.
I just understood why that's her name. What's her name?
K. Michelle.
Exactly. When she talks, I'm like, okay, Michelle.
You've been sitting on that for a minute, huh?
The whole time.
I can see it. This nigga's like, wait till I drop this fucking punchline on you. I'm gonna try to be as empathetic as possible. I think, do I think that men are bad people? Okay. I think what she's really trying to say in this, and doesn't really eloquate it, is that men cause women a lot of pain. And if you want to have that discussion, I'm open to that. I think people cause each other pain. I think people cause each other hurt. Relationships are a place of vulnerability. You are showing intimacy to somebody that you're not used to showing intimacy with. You're showing them a side of yourself that you're not allowed to show to your friends or to your family members. That's what intimacy really is between you and another person. And so I can understand why people are getting hurt in those situations, because you're vulnerable. And that's literally what it means to be vulnerable. It's to be in a state where you're weakened and prone and potentially open to attack. And so, yeah, people are having painful experiences, and that is coming a lot from men. But just like Preach said, women are out here cheating as well. In fact, statistically speaking, women are just as likely as men to cheat. Women initiate 71 to 90% of all divorces. So when you consider the fact that people are getting hurt in these relationships, it's happening for men just as often as it's happening for women. Okay? If you choose to date, just know you're gonna get hurt. It's part of the process of growing, okay? But if you're not learning from those experiences, then you're not gonna continue to make better choices afterwards with each subsequent partner. And so for the people who keep having the same type of guys who go through the same patterns, you haven't learned your lesson. It's like you eat a brownie, you get a tummy ache. The next day you eat a brownie, you get a tummy ache. Bitch, get a salad. Brownies aren't for you. That's all it comes down to. Your diet is trash. So what do you do when you start to feel bad? Your body's giving you feedback, telling you, yo, this ain't for me. So what do you have to do? You have to adjust. You know what I mean? Like, women come to me all the time with this advice, like, hey, what is this guy's intention? Men are very transparent. They are not complicated. If you want to know what a man is thinking, he will show you by his actions. It's super obvious. But the problem is that women have these ideas of a happily ever after.
Yes.
And they want you to fit that narrative, and so they meet you and they put up, but they're not really listening to your actions, and so therefore they're surprised when the story doesn't end the way they want it. You were so busy trying to make him fit your narrative that you didn't realize that he had his own narrative written. And so you gotta just read his story. It's obvious what's going on, but people aren't paying attention. I mean, I've had times where I literally told a girl, I don't want anything serious. She was like, okay, cool. A week later, she's like, so where do you see this going? I'm like, I already told you, I don't see this going anywhere. And she's like, okay. And then 2 weeks later, she's at my door crying and bawling because she caught feelings. And I was like, okay, well, that's your problem, not mine. I literally watched this whole process. I mean, she says to me, but your actions. I'm like, listen, forget what my actions and the way you interpreted it to fit your narrative.
That's because your algebra skills are good as fuck. Okay, so he did this. That's X. And if X equals this and that, and you put Y in there, why? Tell him that it's human nature. Exactly. Human nature is Z, and then that means this nigga's gonna catch feelings in 3 days. You're like, what? What?
Bro, I'm always surprised. And so people go through these patterns where they get hurt, and then afterwards they come up to these conclusions that Michelle came up to as a form of self-preservation. I always tell people, you have far more control than you give yourself credit for. You do. Far more control. So start to take that ownership. Start to become a better judge of character. Start to watch how people move. Stop living in your narrative and live in reality, and take people for what they give you at face value. If you do that, I tell you, man, you're going to weed out a lot of useless men. You're going to weed out a lot of people who are here to waste your time, and you're going to move on to better and bigger experiences because of the fact that you are starting to analyze things from a logical perspective. That's my word of advice. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Okay.
Just punching him in the face. Bro.
You didn't know that was coming? You didn't think I slam dunked that? You didn't think I know you were going to say K?
You fucking you. Bam! It was great.
So that's it for today's video. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you guys agree or disagree?
Degree?
Do you guys agree or disagree?
Degree?
Do you guys agree or associates?
Degree with...
today's topic.
One of the things you also talk about in the book that I really enjoy is how you teach women to be proactive and to approach men.
Yeah, 100%. I think it is that. Like, why would you not want to be an active participant? But there is a world where you wait for the right job to find you. That you're just like, it'll come, if it wants me, it'll approach me.
I agree. Because you would understand a bit more what men have to go through. Like, it's hard to approach a woman. It's hard. You're just standing here and you're just like, yeah, no, ooh, no. Like, you would understand how awkward men are sometimes when they approach you. It's a lot of my friends that like to say that, yeah, we should fuck those gender roles and we need to do better, and that don't want to approach men. Approach them. Go ahead, yeah, but when I approach them, some of them, they got girls and they don't tell me. It's for you to find out. Yeah, but you know, they say no and I feel like I'm interrupting. Yeah, maybe you are. Maybe you are interrupting. Have that in your cup. Take a little sip of that. See how it tastes. It is rough to go out there and talk to a woman. You want equality? You take the whole equality cake. You take it and you eat it. You want to be quoted? Fine. Know that your options are going to be sometimes limited. If you ugly. Yes, I said that because it's a fact. You want to be quoted, but you don't have the proper shoes to play the ball. You know what I mean?
Cinderella, you left your slippers at home.
Oh, that's very shallow. Yes.
And you know what ugly guys do? They approach.
Why don't nobody approach me? Even the guys that do approach you, like once in a blue moon, when they do approach you, they're not the guys that you want. Why are always the guys that you don't want, who are full of confidence? It's like, I'm flattered, thank you, but please, you know and I know that shooting the shot is not actually going to score. Like, you're not going to score, but it was nice, it was cute.
They approach, and you know why? Because they know they're going to miss 99 shots, but they know that if they shoot 1,000, they're going to get
Oh shit.
So they keep...
Whoa, bring that math back. You said they know they're going to miss 99 shots, but if they shoot 1,000, they're going to get one?
At least. Because you know 99 plus 1, that's a talent.
Actually, I'm gonna take this up a little because I.
Do make a W, and what I've learned over time.
I fucking swear to God.
People don't want to try. I think in this dating space, they look at trying as gross. Like, oh, you read a book, like you're desperate. Oh, you tried, like you're taking classes, like oh, you're talking to people, and you're researching. Ew, like you're needy and gross. Whereas in every area in life that you want to get good at, you have to research, you got to practice, you got to enlist the help of gurus. You have to go out there and try different techniques out, and that's how you develop mastery. If you want to get good at something, go into this space. It's like the more you try, the like grosser or worse you probably are at.
But even so, you know, it's like a lot easier for women to approach men than it is for men to approach women.
Church.
Because when I approach a woman, her defenses are up.
That was something. I don't know what that was, but that was something.
It's scary. They might be a little bit more of a threat. I've had women approach me, and my general concept idea was like, what's happening right now? I don't even know. I've never been threatened. Never thought I was like, oh,
She must be crazy. Why me? You know what I mean? You don't understand that.
and it's not the opposite. Every time when women have approached me and have had the balls too, I've always thought it was very endearing.
Because you kind of have to know that they are going to perceive the move well. You know what I mean? Like, it can't go wrong. Like, if I'm pushing up on you, you can't be like, chill. Oh, you got to get the signs first. Yeah, you got to kind of brush them off a few times before you make the move.
A lot of women claim to approach men, but what you find out is their definition of approaching is giving the man the signal
It's being available.
as being available, and the man does the approaching, or they wait for the man to make it clear that the way is open before they make the approach.
Hello?
Any girl who says hello like that, I just assume they work at Macy's or something. It's fucking. this video.
I feel dumber right now.
Get up. Don't get up too fast. So done. Idiot.
Idiot.
What? And then you call him a jerk when he didn't catch on the signals? You're a grown-ass woman. Use your words. Use your words. You're a whole grown-ass person. Use your words. Oh, you look. I'm approaching. What are you doing? Use your words.
Because I think from women's perspective, they are taking the initiative, making sure that they look good, that make sure they did their makeup, they did all that stuff, and they went out and they look cute, right? They felt like they've done their part, and now you gotta do yours.
But that's not the part. I gotta make sure I look good too. I mean, I take showers and shit.
He's fucking dumbfounded.
I take showers.
You gotta take showers and shit.
You're doing makeup, the whole eyes, the lip, foundation, right? Picking out the perfect outfits, all that good stuff. Nigga, I shower and shit.
That's good to know. That's good to know. What else? Well, thank you. What else do we want to know from them? Okay, we got a question over here.
Oh, never mind. I'm done.
Interested, and yet you have a fear of rejection. I don't get that.
Wait, what? Was there a zombie in that mix? Oh no, I'm just seeing shit. Okay.
And you realize that why that's happening is that a woman wants to have the benefit of a relationship of intimacy, but she doesn't want to put self-esteem on the line. And so she gives the man the signals so that he can put himself in harm's way for her own safety and security. Do you understand how crazy that is?
We gotta reframe this whole shit.
Like, that would be like, yo, you want a treasure over there, but it's booby trapped. You don't want to do it yourself, so you manipulate somebody else to go and get it for you. And if they die in the process, that's their problem.
That wasn't you.
Something that really bothers me and like honestly has given me a sense of a little bit of an insecurity is the fact that like there are all these women like throwing themselves, but me, like the past 10 years, like I don't have any of that. Like I have zero, this sounds weird, but like male attention.
You guys, it didn't work for me. I tried like 3 times. What didn't work? I just said, hey, hi, I think you're cute, here's my number. I would wait, like...
Maybe you're not that hot. It's not because you go out there that you're gonna get some.
I would wait, like...
Maybe...
Who?
Said, hey, hi, I think you're cute, here's my number. I would wait, like...
Maybe you're not that hot. It's not because you go out there that you're gonna get some. And then you tried 3 times, and you gave up 3 times? 3? Drake! 3 times!
What's the most devastating rejection you ever dealt with where you approach somebody?
Man, I was in high school, so...
Yeah, because you've been single.
And the girls, I've been with my girl, but the girls were mean back then. Like, I got drinks thrown in my face, slaps in the face.
Were you grabbing people's asses? What were you doing?
No, just, hey, what's up, girl? You want to dance? Or, hey, I think you're cute. And some of y'all already hear some of the viewers, and they're like, yeah, but you were kids back then. No, I've worked in bars. Like, there's not really that much of a difference between high school and some of the people out there in bars. Like, with the way they act and the way they, ew. Have you had a girl say ew to you in front of everybody in the bar while the music is low between 2 tracks? Ew. Can you believe this guy?
Yeah.
I've seen that happen. Bruh.
That hurts.
Him not calling you? He's doing you a favor. For real? I don't even know how many drinks I paid to guys that just caught a L. Wow, my G. Yo, Ellen, the next one's on me. Yo, I saw that. This one's on, bro, this one's on me. All right? Really? And he didn't call you, tried it 3 times and didn't call you? You're good.
I understand that sometimes women get approached so often and so much when they're out and about that they get fed up with it, and that's their reaction. So I'm not mad at that either. But I think there's always a middle ground that you have to reach. between being cruel
Ew.
and asserting your boundaries.
Ew.
Maybe it's like a hard thing for us to really admit because we're always trying to defy these gender norms, and we're like, oh, you know, men and women, we don't. But I genuinely believe that they like the idea of not only being approached, but being wooed. Of course. Like, I've never had a woman seduce me.
Never.
You can't seduce
What? Pick it up.
At the end of the day, when you approach me, in my mind, I've already made a decision as to whether or not
Damn.
whether I'm open to or not. I've never gone from I'm definitely not interested to yeah, I'll bang you.
Wise words.
There's women who have made that fit, and so
You made that fit?
on some reason, for sure. I played the long game. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? First year no, 2 years no, and then 3 years in, we out and about. We go to the I don't realize you're so charming.
Bruv, get out the way.
Yeah, 2 years of L's make a W in the third year. You know what I'm saying? And so I did my thing. Yeah, when you play the long game and you get it in, I just don't think that. I think that's why they don't do it. That and also preserves it. Those are the two reasons why I think they don't. So leave your comments below if you want to know your thoughts. What do you think about this topic? 2 L's.
Why does he just stand there? That shit's annoying. Boo boo doo doo doo. Boo doo doo doo. Doo doo doo. Doo 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 doo. Doo 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 doo. Alright, seen this? I've actually seen like a couple of these already.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another Black Ops Cold War, and this time also
Finally someone goes over this story, because
put together.
no one has really gone over this yet. It's kind of annoying.
The explanation of the crossover between Modern Warfare and Black Ops Cold War, and it is a doozy, and it's actually generated around a bad character, a villain, known as Imran Zakhaev, the character who you run into in the campaign in a really big way, and basically he is the character, the glue that ties everything together. Now there's also some other references throughout the campaign of Modern Warfare that we're going to check out too, and even weirder, there's actually a tie to a different Call of Duty series. Not a Modern Warfare
Did I just
game,
one-shot the
not a
other
Black
one?
Ops,
Alrighty.
but another one. We're going to look at that closer towards the end of the video. So lately with these story videos, you guys have been absolutely killing it with the likes. In the last video, I asked for 15,000 likes. We are at like 22,000 likes right now. So if you enjoy this video, you want to see more story videos like this one, be sure to hit that like button. Let's aim for 15,000. Once again, it'd be insane if you guys can do it. So if you enjoy these type of videos, be sure to hit that like button. So today we answer the question of how Modern Warfare and Black Ops Cold War are tied together. But first, let's hear from today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by War Thunder, an online military vehicle combat game, and this game is actually free to play on Xbox, PC, PlayStation, and the new consoles as well. Now the reason why we're talking about them today is because of the new game update called New Power. This is to celebrate their 8th anniversary and over 34 million players. Now with this update, they are bringing an entire new game engine to the game to really bring your combat to that next level. Now, if you played the game before, you know that you can fight with vehicles like airplanes, ground vehicles like tanks, and even take the battle to the waters with some naval ships as well. Now, with this update, they're adding a new season and battle pass system where you can unlock things like vehicle camos simply by playing the game. They've also implemented a new interactive hangar where you can go inspect and look
What
at
game
all
is
the
it?
different vehicles in the game as well. Now, you may
War
have played
Thunder?
War Thunder
Shit.
before, but with this update, it's entirely changing the way the game plays. So if you want to check out the game, if you played it before, want to give it another shot, or you're just getting into it for the first time, feel free to click that link down in the description, check out the game, and like I said before, you can play it for absolutely free. So click that link down in the description, check it out, and thank you War Thunder for sponsoring the video. So previously in Warzone, we were introduced to the crossover between Black Ops Cold War and Modern Warfare, and we learned that essentially the Black Ops series is now combining with the Modern Warfare series to create one continuous timeline, and we're going to dive into that timeline later in the video. Now, this stems in Black Ops Cold War with the introduction of a character by the name of Imran Zakhaev.
But my question is if My question is if everything else combines, like, is the Black Ops storyline still the same with Mason and Woods and all? Because that was right after Black Ops 1, right? So it'd be nice if they had, like, a continuous storyline.
Called Desperate Measures, where you infiltrate the KGB headquarters playing as a character named Dmitry Belikov. Essentially, you get called to a big round table with the higher-ups within the KGB, and you see some, well, let's just say, familiar faces.
There's a mole within the KGB. The committee wants someone from the first chief directorate to oversee Colonel Kravchenko's investigation. If you've not met him already, this is Imran Zakayev.
Thank you, Secretary Gorbachev. And thank you all for welcoming me with open arms. I can think of no greater tragedy than a home violated, corruption inside. Trust and love within a family is sacred.
Apparently. Not everyone shares your beautiful sentiments.
So I can't skip over the fact that at this round table, it's not just Imran Zakayev. You're also there with Gorbachev, but also, and in my opinion, more importantly,
Kravchenko.
Lev Kravchenko. Now, if you don't know who Kravchenko is, he was essentially the second in command of the bad guys in Black Ops 1. Essentially, he was working alongside Nikita Dragovich, the character who you kill at the end of Black Ops 1. Now, similarly in Black Ops 1, there is a scene where Woods, Mason are both fighting with Kravchenko. At this time, Woods pulls a grenade off of Kravchenko, the two of them jump out of a window, and
My question is, wait.
Woods pulls a grenade off of Kravchenko,
He looks the same,
two of
too.
them jump out of a window, and seemingly both of them die. Now, as we know, they don't both die because one, Woods is in this game, and also now we know that Kravchenko is alive and well, and once again in this game. You may also
Okay,
know that
so-
Gorbachev called him Colonel Kravchenko, so now he is a colonel within the KGB, or within the Spetsnaz army. The second takeaway from this interaction, and I think a lot of people have skipped over this, is that this is Imran Zakayev's first time within the KGB headquarters. We know this because he thanks Gorbachev for inviting him in on this investigation. Essentially, the investigation to find the mole inside of the KGB. And that is why we see him in on this mission. So this is technically his first time working with, basically, the Russian CIA.
Comrade Belikov, as head of security, I understand you've practically exhausted yourself trying to unearth this mole. How has that gone?
Until the mole is found, I want security increased around the bunker. Zakayev, do you have any recommendations?
We should restrict bunker access. We also want to cultivate closer relationships with all of you. I want to know your hopes, your fears, your ambition.
Now, we get to hear a really creepy statement from Zakayev that he wants to learn everyone's hopes, dreams, ambitions, and we later will find out why exactly that is. Now, how does this relate to Modern Warfare? Essentially, this is Mr. Z. He is the character that we see in many images, in Spec Ops, and in Warzone in Modern Warfare. But there was something released, I believe it was around March, by Infinity Ward, discussing the Zakayevs, and specifically discussing where's Imran Zakayev and how his son, Victor Zakayev, plays into the story. And this is what you need to understand. The article that Activision and Infinity Ward put out was specifically on Victor Zakayev, but we actually learn a lot about Imran throughout this. First of all, we find out that Victor Zakayev was born sometimes in the 70s and was a teenager within the 80s. Makes sense. But what we find out is that Victor's father, Imran, was a high-ranking official in the Interior Ministry under the communist regime. So this is basically telling us what is going on within that cutscene. He was in the inside of communist Russia. Now, he says, as a boy, Victor had the rare access to tunnels and bunker system of the Eastern Bloc. This is exactly what they are talking about in the cutscene. The bunkers. They want to restrict access to the bunkers to limit access to whoever the mole is.
We should restrict bunker access.
And that limited bunker access could very well play into the bunkers in Warzone, but of course you need special keycards for, or even to complete an Easter egg to actually get into. Now later in the article we find out that Imran finally passed away in the year 2011, and it's believed that it had nothing to do with war or battle, but rather he passed away because of cancer. That being said, something that is very, very strange about this is the year that Call of Duty 4 takes place is in the year 2011. And during Call of Duty 4, at the end of the game, well, this is what happened. Now, we will dive into that a little bit more later on, but it's important to note that those dates do match up. Him dying in 2011 and the end of Call of Duty 4 taking place in 2011. We'll get into that more in a minute. Now, we find out that after the passing of Imran Zakhaev, Victor reportedly used what was left of his father's loyalist contacts to smuggle weapons from Eastern Europe to Africa and the Middle East. Essentially, he used his contacts to be a weapons smuggler, and it's assumed that Zakhaev Arms, the company behind the weapons smuggling, was also what Imran Zakhaev did to get into the inside of the FSB. So later in this mission, we find out that Imran Zakhaev was actually brought in by Kravchenko as they're having this secret conversation after Bell sneaks in to the KGB. And then the last scene where we see Zakhaev in Cold War is in the elevator, when Bell and Adler are going up the elevator disguised as KGB agents. Zakhaev kind of confronts them.
No, Yuritsa. Когда вы прибыли? Ах да, разумеется. Кто ваш командир? Я не расслышал.
So as you saw, you can give him the correct answers and then he leaves the elevator, but in other situations you have to knock him out when he becomes suspicious of you. This doesn't really play much into the story, but that's the last time we see Zakhaev. Now, what this tells us is essentially a timeline for the Modern Warfare / Black Ops universe. So this is what we're looking at. It starts in 1968 with Woods and Mason in Black Ops 1. After this, we have Black Ops Cold War with Adler, Bell, Mason, Woods, the game that we just experienced. After this, we have Black Ops 2 taking place in the year 1986. Then we have quite a large gap before Modern Warfare 2019/2020 actually takes place. In this, we see the son, Victor Zakhaev, take over for his father, Imran Zakhaev, and at this time, we see several links throughout Warzone of Perseus, Imran Zakhaev, and Victor Zakhaev all working together to combat the West. After this, the story would once again resume with the second part of the Black Ops 2 story in the year 2025. Then Black Ops 4 takes place in 2045, and Black Ops 3 in 2065. So a little bit confusing after Modern Warfare, but that is essentially the timeline. Now, it's also important to note that the only Modern Warfare game that is canon in this timeline is Modern Warfare 2019. The developers have said this, the lore says this. However,
my question is, wait, let me see the storyline.
2020 actually takes place. Imran Zakhaev and Victor Zakhaev all working together to combat the West. After this, the story would once again resume with the second part of the Black Ops 2 story in the year 2025. Then Black Ops 4 takes place in 2045, and Black Ops 3 in 2065. So a little bit confusing after Modern Warfare, but that is essentially the timeline. Now, it's also important to note that the only Modern Warfare game that is canon in this timeline is Modern Warfare 2019. The developers have said this, the lore says this. However, there is a little bit of a twist with this, because we also know that some things from the first 3 Modern Warfare games are canon within Modern Warfare 2019. For example, what we hear at the very end of the Modern Warfare campaign.
Zakhaev on Barkov's throne.
I almost buried him in Pripyat with Macmillan.
That was the father. This is the son, Victor.
Lovely family.
This is Captain Price reminiscing about nearly killing Imran Zakhaev and shooting off his arm in Pripyat. This event takes place in Call of Duty 4, one of the games that is apparently not canon in this timeline. this tells us that a lot of the events of previous games took place in the past in this timeline, but not all of them. For example, you'd think that he would talk about killing Imran Zakhaev at the end of Call of Duty 4 in this talk with Kate Laswell, but no mention is made of that. It's just the talk of the events of Pripyat. So some of the events from the original 3 Modern Warfares are canon. We just don't know what ones at this point, and maybe that will get cleared up with the next Modern Warfare game, potentially Modern Warfare 2 to come out next year. Now, what I can tell you is based off of the events and knowing that Pripyat was an event that happened in this timeline means that 2 characters that have not been brought into the game yet will be coming. And those
Only
are
max ammo, damn.
and Yuri, 2 major characters in Modern Warfare 3. So, we haven't seen them yet, but maybe those will be in Modern Warfare 2 as well. Now, the other thing that we found in Black Ops Cold War is Burger Town. Now, this may seem like a small detail, however, Burger Town has never been in a Black Ops game ever. Only Modern Warfare games and 2 other games that we're going to dive into in a second. So, what this tells us is that this is just another example of the crossover. Now, there's a little Easter egg with Burger Town where the mascot, Bubby, you can go over to him, press a button on him, and he says some a little bit inappropriate things about Burger Town to you.
Would you like to make that a super duper mega combo? May I recommend the Artery Busters?
Now, as I mentioned, Burger Town was always a Modern Warfare thing. Of course, a really big thing within Modern Warfare 2 is where it really came to shine. However, we have seen other games with this as well. In fact, Advanced Warfare actually had an Easter egg on one of the zombies map that actually Bubby was actually involved in. So this may actually tell us that Advanced Warfare is also a part of this timeline as well. Furthermore, Infinite Warfare also had some things involving Burger Town as well, including weapon charms, as you're seeing here. But on top of this, there is another tie-in with Roman Barkov being one of the main bad guys within Modern Warfare. There's another character in Infinite Warfare who is also Russian and one of the bad guys called Radoslav Barkov that you are sent to assassinate. Seemingly, these 2 characters could be connected via the last name, and also Infinite Warfare could be built into this timeline as well. I've also made discussion in the past of Ghosts having many ties to Modern Warfare. On top of this, we know that Call of Duty World at War is when Reznov was introduced to the trailer games, so World at War is also a part of this timeline as well. So, possibly, this could be the overall timeline that we know of right now. For this coagulation of games. This is not confirmed. This is based off of small amounts of speculation from small evidence. Possible, probably not likely, but possible. This is the confirmed timeline that we know for sure. All of these games are in the same timeline. Burger Town is in Modern Warfare. We have World at War with Reznov in it, and the rest of the games, of course, are all of the Black Ops storyline. So this all fits in together. This is the confirmed timeline that we know 100%. Now, I have got some questions whether or not Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4 should or are in this timeline. And actually, in Cold War, there is a small amount of evidence linking these 3 games together, specifically with some of the operators. So, if you want to see me go over that in a separate video, like I said before, if you want to see these story videos continue, make sure you hit that like button. This has been the full crossover explained. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, like I said, be sure to hit that like button. If you're new here, want to
I don't think, I think I need 500.
Closer and closer to 1 million subscribers. I would love to hit it before the end of the year, so if you want to be a
I'll
part of
do that later.
be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. If you have any more theories, ideas, or questions revolving around this, feel free to ask them or let me know down in the comments. But as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.
What else is there?
まったんだけど、それについて一言言います。わためは悪く
That was dumb.
In my old Angel Fire Adventures video about Sonic Underground fanfictions, I posited the theory that many present-day furries were fur-pilled by Princess Sally Acorn from the old Sonic the Hedgehog cartoons and Archie comics. After posting the video, several furries confirmed that yeah, Princess Sally did have a part in their awakening. Well, I've got some news for you guys. Princess Sally is real. No, that's not a person in a costume. That's Sally Acorn in the flesh. And fur.
Oh no.
Find out all
Stop.
about this episode of Tales from the Interview. Have you ever dreamed of controlling a dinosaur with guns on it? Boy, have I got the game for you. This video was sponsored by Jurassic Monster World, now available on the iOS store as well as the Google Play Store. In this game, you're in a post-apocalyptic world where dinosaurs are back, and the surviving humans must tame them and kill everyone else's dinosaurs in a struggle for resources. Crush your enemies and reap the reward. Control different types of monsters, airborne, ground-based, historically accurate, and cybernetically modified, as well as complete mutant abominations, each with their own playstyle. Gain more riders to control more dinosaurs you can use in one battle, and upgrade your weapons and equipment to make your dinos more dangerous. And keep coming for more because the game is constantly updated with new tweaks and content. Find me under the name Wang. Support my channel and go to the link in the video description. When you click on it, you'll get 1 dinosaur pilot, 150,000 E-cells, and 150D crystals as a welcome pack for free. There's many reasons why a person might eschew dating a real human being. Maybe your significant other lives in the anime world. Maybe you just don't want to deal with the whole dating spiel. Or maybe a real live human woman simply cannot fulfill your desires. Those desires being the loving embrace of one Princess Sally Acorn, who made her debut in the 1993 Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon. But making a cuckold of Jaleel White Sonic is easier said than done. What a lot of
Oh my god.
get out of the whole dating category is they buy themselves a sex doll. But a high-level pre-made like Dominique went viral a few years ago and had people swearing off human women. That'll run you a few $1,000s. And then there's some other options all the way down to a $15 blow-up line, like Judio. Can you imagine that face staring at you the whole time? Yeah. But regardless of how much you have to spend on this, there's no companies, to my knowledge, that will give you a pre-made Sally Acorn. So that's not gonna work. Your next option is to channel the true punk DIY spirit and make your own. And thankfully, there's guides. Like this one I found on HomemadeSexToys.com.
Oh god.
This process basically entails building your own Frankenstein monster.
That sounds like a really bad idea. Someone's gonna get hurt.
And then you mount it all on a mannequin and get something that looks a little bit like this. Reminds me of those hard plastic 90s WWF action figures. It's just
I was gonna say, that sounds like someone's gonna get hurt doing something stupid.
plastic bag to a couch cushion, because that's just not gonna cut it. You
They're gonna make something wrong and it's gonna fucking end this, like, terrible.
Metal skeletons have their limitations. And this is what makes Sally Acorn so infamous. It's not just that this doll is so absurdly realistic. It's to the point where, on first glance, it looks like a person in a fursuit. It's pretty uncanny, but not that much crazier than anything we've seen before. It's what lies beneath the surface that gives this thing its reputation. I'm talking about the skeleton. Guy makes a Sally Acorn sex doll from a human skeleton. In honor of the Sonic movie trailer release, I'd like to take...
I kinda wanna just go back.
Sally Acorn so infamous. It's not just that this doll is so absurdly realistic. It's to the point where, on first glance, it looks like a person in a fursuit. It's pretty uncanny, but not that much crazier than anything we've seen before. It's what lies beneath the surface that gives this thing its reputation. I'm talking about the skeleton. Guy makes a Sally Acorn sex doll from a human skeleton. In honor of the Sonic movie trailer release, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone of the time a person on DeviantArt built a life-size Sally Acorn doll using a human skeleton as the base. This is a Sally Acorn sex doll made using a human skeleton. Sweet dreams. The presence of a skeleton inside Sally adds a whole other layer because at this point, does this count as necrophilia? Can you imagine if you died only to have your remains used to be a part of Sonic the Hedgehog's something.
That's fucking terrible. What the fuck?
Online curiosities. This one isn't necessarily
People are horrible.
The creator of Sally was discovered to be a DeviantArt user named Gradindy, who describes himself as an artificer who sculpts in clay, cloth, wood, metal, pixels, polygons, lines, words, and data. After several incidents where people discovered Sally and came to his DeviantArt page to say, dude, what the fuck, he decided to clear the air a little bit. For starters, this skeleton isn't actually a skeleton. The bones are carved from pine, wood from trees, which are plants, and are burnished, rubbed with a burnishing cloth in place of sanding. It hardens the surface and gives it a better shine. The staining, the result of burnishing, and discoloration, a half-hearted attempt to paint them white with some cheap-ass spray paint, are nothing like that of real bone. I'm sure that you eat chicken or seen bones removed from meat. The difference between wood and bone is like the difference between night and day. And if you take a closer look at the skeleton, I believe him. With that being said, it does look extremely lifelike, which is really impressive. In other posts, he mentions that to get it right, he consulted 2 books, Anatomy for the Artist and Atlas of Human Anatomy. And that being said, you have to wonder, why go through all of this trouble just for a part of the doll that will never actually be seen in the finished product? I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't hook up with the woman and think, hey, those like bones rattling around inside. I mean, now that I said it, I probably will think that, and so will you because you heard it, but it's not normal. And actually, he has an explanation for this. Why did you use a human skeleton as a reference in the first place? I tried to reverse engineer a skeleton from the toonish looking pictures, and the results were freakish. Way worse than anything I've made. Then I tried to make the proportions a little more realistic, and things were still bad. Then I made them a little bit off from human, and they got better, but were still pretty bad. Bottom line is that all of the non-human attributes are superficial. Aside from the bigger head, repositioned ears, tail, muzzle, I recently took that off and the likeness improved. And fur, the character in question is otherwise human in appearance and form. Bigger ears make the head look bigger, so I was able to get some of that back without ruining things.
Also, I need to
Why
open
did
up.
it have to look so realistic? The skeleton defines appearance as much as muscle, and fudging on the skeleton means that I fudge on the muscle layer too. And yes, there is a muscle layer, but we'll get into that later. The movie Face Off is unrealistic because even if they could do all that stuff, the skull differences would ruin the final result. With the process I was using, tracing lateral and anterior images onto blocks and cutting each, then rounding them off, it was just as easy to leave all the details in. The only purpose simplification could serve is to keep people from screaming and crying. Closed-minded people who refuse to hear out perfectly rational explanations in favor of protecting the hype. Their willfully ignorant opinions really shouldn't matter. I wasn't expecting that my work was close enough to the real thing to bring out all the paranoid kids wanting to take out their aggression on me, which, to be honest, has become vastly more amusing than annoying. And while that does seem like a ton of unnecessary work, you can't really argue with the results. As I said before, to me, it looks more like a person in a costume than it does a life-size plushie. Although that being said, he has mentioned that he would never go through the trouble of hand-carving parts again, and that newer techniques may provide better results. There are also a lot of people asking for advice on how they can make their own. So in one post, he would go even further in depth about the process behind Sally. Skeleton. This is where the proportions are decided. You don't need to get all of the bones perfect. I did that and spent a lot more time than I should have. The legs can be dowels. Make sure to get the knees shaped right. The pelvis is just a bitch. I bought a medical model $50 to use as reference, then got lazy and just installed it. Then I paid another $50 for another one to be a reference for my production pieces. No shortcuts allowed this time. Hands and feet are tricky, and anatomical accuracy counts. You can get an easy head base using a foam mannequin head. For the ribs, I went with heavy wire, the kind used in fences. The spine is made from wooden pieces separated by silicone blobs. Muscles. This is where the shape and contour are decided. Not much more than spandex tubes and bags. The stitch used, blanket stitch, is important, otherwise it could snap, bind, or leak stuffing. After they are made, you can attach them to the bones with screws, staples, or thread depending on where they are and how much load they have. Skin. the fun part. Seriously, it has been fun. I used part of the duct tape dummy technique, but instead of making a dummy, I cut it where I wanted the seams and used it as a pattern for the fur. Always cut fur on the back side, known as the wrong side in sewing, with an X-Acto knife. I use figure 8 variant of the blanket stitch to sew fur. It leaves no seams and still holds well. The drawback is that it takes good judgment and a fair amount of skill. Details, the little things. Eyes, clear plastic ornament balls painted on the inside with enamel paint, glass paint, and acrylic paint. Teeth, not done yet on Sally. A dental polymer requires molds. Tongue, not done yet on Sally. The tongue is muscle. Pink spandex will be fine. Head hair, doll hair works well. Make sure it's something you can work with. A wig is fine too if you can tolerate. It should be noted too that he didn't just figure this out all at once. Sally has been in the making since 1999 with tons of trial and error. And although much of the very early stuff isn't preserved, you can see its progression on Granadine's DeviantArt over the course of more than a decade. One example being her jaw. The plexiglass mandible is in. I was so nervous about this. The camera doesn't show it well, but her jaw has changed drastically. Much more feminine. Very proud of how this came out. As of me making this video, this project is more than 20 years in the making and still isn't 100% complete.
Fuck,
But
man.
he has stated his intent to refine his process such that he'll be able to mass produce plushies like this. Considering how many requests for commissions I've seen him turn down, and considering how many artists I've heard say that the only way they can afford to put food on their table is by drawing furry porn, I can't help but think that if he actually does manage to refine his process enough for mass production, it will be wildly successful. And while this all seems absolutely insane, you can't help but have some sense of admiration for the level of craftsmanship, and a person going into uncharted territory like this and figuring it out as they go along just because it's what they wanted to do. And to that end, Granadine had this to say. Sally was not an easy project. It took a lot of persistence. 10 years and she's still not 100% done. I spent around $600 making it. Most of the time and money.
Oh, that's not that bad, honestly.
I ended up discarded. Trial and error. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Thomas.
I was expecting to like fucking $1,000.
Thomas Edison is looking down on Granadine, proud of the legacy he's created. But anyway, that's all for this video. Check out a video about another art project, Chinese Man Eats Baby. I'm out.
What?
What's the strangest thing you ever eaten? There's a lot of weird food out there from all around the world, and although some people are hesitant to step outside their comfort zone of chicken tendies and french fries, other people pride themselves in their adventurous eating habits. And you probably won't be surprised when I say that some of the strangest delicacies in the world, at least to the Western palate, come from Asian countries. But the thing is that people are so used to the idea of weird food coming out of the Far East that they're willing to believe just about anything you tell them. And this brings us to the early 2000s, when a photo of a Chinese man eating what appears to be a baby went viral. It circulated all over the world through chain emails and Rotten.com with a story attached to it about how eating babies is the hottest new trend in Asia. It's a completely ridiculous story, yet thousands of people fell for it, including Scotland Yard and the FBI. So who is this guy, and what's the real story behind these photos? Find out in this episode of Tales from the Internet.
Damn, no insta-kill?
Sponsored by Verve. Verve
I'd even take a nuke right now, honestly.
shows and movies from a variety of sources like Crunchyroll, Nick Splat, and my personal favorite, Shudder. And I was really surprised by the depth of their catalog. At the time of me filming this, they have basically every classic cannibal movie, Italian horror movies like Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy. They actually have Faces of Death available to stream. And then there's all of the anime that I keep on saying that I need to get caught up on, like My Hero Academia. And before I get ahead of myself, I could literally spend an entire video gushing about all the things I'm going to be watching on this service, and their app that'll let me watch these things offline when I'm inevitably stuck in a train with no signal at some point, but To get started, go to vrv.co/wang or click my link in the description for a 30-day ad-free trial of Verve Premium. Although chain emails were a plague on the early days of the internet, I kinda love them a little bit. And a big part of that is just the absolute absurd things that people would send me. I mean, you've seen the lobster video. And I'm about to tell you about an old chain email that we can file away with the lobster story, except for the fact that this one is much more grounded in reality. The story about the so-called growing trend of cannibalism in China or Taiwan or whichever Asian country. There's several different versions of these emails dating all the way back to the year 2000, one of which reads, "Oh, how cruel can humans be? Please finish your meal before open the files. What you are going to witness here is a fact. Don't get scared. It's Taiwan's hottest food. In Taiwan, dead babies or fetuses could be bought at $50 or $70 from hospitals to meet the high demand for grilled and barbecued babies. What a sad state of affairs. Please forward this message to as many people as you can, so it can be seen by the world and someone takes action on the same." And attached are pictures of an Asian man feasting on what appears to be a big old plate of goo goo gaga. If you've ever seen these pictures before, chances are that you've never forgotten them. These pictures would eventually find their way to Rotten.com, which published their own version of the story, The Final Taboo. What is probably said most frequently about us is, Rotten.com is pretty awful, but at least they don't have pictures of people eating babies. Well, you are easily alone. You probably don't want to see these two pictures from our anonymous Asian correspondent. Just as with animals, infanticide is common in the animal kingdom, but it is often followed by infantiphagia, the eating of babies. Incidents of chimpanzees, one of mankind's closest relatives, consuming their young are well documented. Good eating is, after all, good eating. These photos were sent to us anonymously. It is difficult to determine where they were taken, Hong Kong or Japan, or whether crimes were committed in the process. It is difficult to imagine the act pictured being legal in any jurisdiction. Rotten.com, of course, at this point had already found themselves in the middle of a number of legal disputes. The Burlington Coat Factory, Bonsai Kitten, and on February 22nd of 2001, the Asian cannibal controversy would set off yet another legal problem for the website. It was on this date that a number of British news outlets began to publish Satanic Panic-style coverage of the pictures, focused on Rotten's involvement. A picture of a man apparently dining with gusto on a roasted baby at the Rotten.com website has led to a police inquiry by Scotland Yard and the FBI, according to a horrifying story by The Independent. British detectives are trying to close a website showing pictures of a man eating a dismembered baby, further evidence of the extent of child abuse and exploitation published on the internet. British detective Clive Driscoll explains, "According to Driscoll, the pictures are awful. It is your worst nightmare unfolding in front of you. I took them to a very senior forensic pathologist, a man I have a lot of faith in, and he looked me in the eye and said, 'These pictures I hoped I would never see. For me, it's a murder scene because I don't know how that child died,' the so-called detective says. But despite this commotion, Soylent, the owner of Rotten.com, said that he had never been contacted regarding this investigation. You can imagine our surprise when we read that Rotten.com was being investigated by the FBI on the front page of the UK newspaper The Independent. Apparently, someone at Scotland Yard decided to close the website after he saw some pictures that upset him, the men say. And after all that, the panicked journalism, the FBI, Scotland Yard. The very next day, on February 23rd of 2001, the truth of these pictures came out. Online Baby Muncher is an artist. Foitus on your breath. The man pictured apparently eating a small roast baby in our previous story turns out to be an artist named Zhu Yu, who performed a conceptual piece called Eating People at a Shanghai Arts Festival last year. And it wasn't any of these outraged journalists or Scotland Yard or the FBI that got to the bottom of this. It was regular internet users like you who discovered it on, you ready for this? ChineseArt.com. So the gist
No.
of this performance piece by Zhu Yu goes as follows. He begins by announcing, I herewith announce my intention and my aim to eat people as a protest against mankind's moral idea that he/she cannot eat people. He then proceeds to wash, cook, and eat the baby as someone takes photos of it. The photos of this performance were then to be placed on display at the Arts Festival. But there is one problem. The public never actually saw these photos. You see, because of the very obviously controversial nature of this art piece, the organizers of the art festival were concerned that it might get the whole thing shut down. So the night before they opened, Zhu Yu returned to the premises along with another Chinese artist, Ai Weiwei, and they removed all the pictures. So at this point, nobody had actually seen these pictures aside from Zhu Yu, the photographer, and the people involved in the arts festival. That was until, somehow, the photos found their way to a Malaysian publication known as Perdana Weekly. It was in this magazine that the photos were published without any indication that they had anything to do with an art installation. It's just like, hey, look at this guy eating some babies. And it's from that point that the pictures made their way onto the internet with the sensationalist story attached. It's actually very similar to the Chinese plastic surgery story that I covered a few months ago. I guess this is just a common way that these kinds of stories make their way onto the internet. And all that being said, what was that baby actually? The majority of sources that I've come across say that the baby was most likely made of doll parts and duck meat. But according to a number of these same sources, Zhu Yu tells a different story. They claim that Zhu Yu said that he obtained an aborted fetus to eat, and he really did eat it, and it was
Oh my
disgusting, and
God.
he vomited profusely. And I could see an artist saying something like that, even if it wasn't true, just because in the art world, especially that kind of conceptual modern art, the persona of the artist is basically as important as the art itself. But I can tell, the only time he has actually said this was in a fictional work. A film that he made in 2003 entitled Corpse Case. Although I was unable to get a copy of the film, I was able to obtain a partial transcript of it from Wikipedia, which cites it as evidence that he claimed to eat the baby for real, despite the fact that the page that they linked to says, note, the following text is the transcript of the video work Zhu Yu's Corpse Case. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Always check the sources when you're reading Wikipedia. Anyway, the film is a depiction of a fictional court case in which Zhu Yu portrays an artist named Zhu Ji. The character Zhu Ji created an art installation similar to eating people, and in the story, he claims that he tricked a hospital into giving it to him. The character Zhu Ji then eats the fetus in his art exhibit and vomits profusely. The fictional court case then goes on to talk about incidents such as one in which the artist chops up his own child and feeds it to a hungry dog. From what I can tell, it's very clearly intended to be an over-the-top fictionalized version of himself, but not an admission of anything. So ultimately, no, I don't think this guy went and actually ate a real baby. But that hasn't stopped him from legitimately being one of China's most controversial artists. And eating people is really just the tip of the iceberg with his work. He had another piece where he takes a real human brain, slices it up, boils it, and autographs the pieces. Then he sells the pieces and people bought them. And he has another piece where art patrons go into a room with a tangled rope held by a decomposing human arm, and they gotta get around the rope to get out of the room. And then there's one where he actually had a surgery done to remove a big piece of his skin and have it grafted onto a leg. And video footage of this surgery is available, and he does have the scar to show for it. And the question you gotta ask a lot of the time with an artist like this is, what's the point? Why would you do something like this? And in the case of eating people, at the height of the controversy with Scotland Yard and the FBI investigation, Zhu Yu actually went on a British documentary to talk about his piece. No religion forbids cannibalism, nor can I find any law which prevents us from eating people. I took advantage of the space between morality and the law and based my work on it. So as I understand it, the point of this piece, in which a man eats a boiled baby in front of a bunch of people, is to demonstrate the difference between what we inherently find to be right and wrong, and what the law determines is right and wrong. Let me know what you think about his message. And if you like this video, I'm sure you'll like my video on .com. I'm out of here. When a new subreddit is born, it's often made with dreams of it becoming one day a massive, bustling community. But very few subreddits even make it past the first couple of posts. If a concept does have enough appeal, however, it'll enjoy exponential growth as word of it spreads throughout the general Reddit community. But such growth can be a double-edged sword. Although this kind of success represents the fulfillment of a goal, it can also spell the end of what made the subreddit great in the first place. I mean, sure, all the new users flocking to a trending subreddit came there because they all enjoy the same type of content. But as time goes on, more and more of these new members will misunderstand the core concept of what it is that made these posts go together in the first place. This often leads to an influx of content that's irrelevant but has a general appeal that'll get upvotes. This type of irrelevant content will keep getting pushed to the front page of a subreddit until it eventually reaches an existential crisis. A fork in the road that most growing subreddits eventually have to cross. Do you rein things in with stricter moderation, or do you just let the subreddit devolve into a bland clone of r/funny or r/WTF? Over the years, many great subreddits have fallen victim to this fate, and in late 2018, it was r/CursedImages who was dealing with this possibility. It was during this time that r/CursedImages was dealing with a massive influx of irrelevant memes, weird food posts, face swaps, and generally non-cursed images. But that raises the question, what exactly makes an image a cursed image? It's something that can be very difficult to actually define. For me personally, I think of things like that weird collection of Lola Bunny dolls. This Tommy Pickles doll head that's covered in barnacles. Oh yeah, and if you were watching my channel, you're probably very familiar with this particular cursed image. But does that mean
stop.
that a cursed image is necessarily something that's creepy or gross? Not really. This drawing from the Scary Stories books is pretty creepy, but is it a cursed image? I wouldn't say so. On the other hand, you've got this man with what appears to be an abundance of tomatoes. Is this a cursed image? I would say so, and in fact, this was actually the very first cursed image. It was posted on a Tumblr blog dedicated exclusively to cursed images on October 28th of 2015. And it's this Tumblr blog that could be credited with the establishment of the cursed image aesthetic. And it's work that would be continued with the establishment of the Cursed Images Twitter account in July of 2016. And it was through this Twitter account that cursed images would reach all new heights of popularity. Suddenly, people started to share images all over social media with the caption, cursed image. The phenomenon grew to such a level that it was receiving coverage in publications such as The New Yorker. But despite its growing popularity, the Twitter account would go dormant in late 2016. 3 final posts were made on midnight Halloween. I mean, technically November 1st, but you know, let's not be a bunch of Neil deGrasse Tysons over this. It was Halloween. This
God.
continues until we reach Cursed Image 666, which depicts a man vomiting in front of a portrait of Jesus. From this point on, the Cursed Images Twitter account would appear for one more post on Halloween of next year, then never be heard from again. And in its absence, the subreddit r/CursedImages took up the mantle. This subreddit was created in September of 2016 by Reddit user BangFu, a month before the Twitter account was abandoned. And this subreddit very quickly became the internet's top destination for all things cursed. But there is a problem. When you have an account that's curated by an individual or a tightly knit group of people, like the original Tumblr blog or the original Twitter account, it's very easy to keep a concept coherent and to keep an aesthetic consistent. But the more users you add into the mix, the harder it is to hold things together. You would need some kind of a rubric to determine what is and isn't a cursed image, and that kind of thing didn't really exist. It was more of an I know it when I see it kind of thing, and that eventually stops working. So r/CursedImages very quickly began to follow the doomed trajectory that I spoke about at the beginning of the video. Although there was a lot of genuinely good, relevant content posted, over time, more and more irrelevant posts started to find their way to the top. A zany flyer here, a contrived, premeditated food picture there, a creepy drawing of Garfield, with this loosey-goosey, hands-off approach to moderation. The concept of what made r/cursed images was coming apart at the seams. And this issue all came to a head on July 29th of 2018, when a user named yaboytom made a post entitled Cursed Note. I know this image isn't cursed, but neither is 80% of the shit posted here. If you don't understand what makes an image cursed, then don't post anything. A good chunk of the community echoed your boy Tom's sentiment, and the post received over 42,000 upvotes. And it also received a barrage of supportive comments. According to the past year, this sub is r/and r/forbidden snacks love child. Cursed truth. There is also a lot of discussion about what makes a cursed image a cursed image. People need to understand that when they pose for an image, it is automatically not cursed. To be honest, the problem with cursed images is that cursedness is very poorly defined. Probably even worse than r/accidental Wes Anderson, r/outrun, and r/cyberpunk combined. Show 10 people from this sub a cursed image and you'll get 10 opinions whether or not it's actually cursed. I'm from r/all. What exactly makes a cursed image? Who in their right mind created this image? What the hell is going on here? Where is this demented place? When in what context could something like this make sense? Why would somebody create this horrific image? If you ask all these questions and come up with nothing, the image is very cursed. If you can get a vague answer to a couple, it's still sort of cursed. If you can give pretty good answers to several of these questions, the image isn't cursed. After seeing the public outcry that was caused by this post, the creator of r/cursed images, Bangfu, made a post asking for more mods. He received a lot of applications and put together a small team of new mods. Would the subreddit be saved after all? Let's take a look at the comments on this post by a mod a few months later and see. This sub has mods? I was literally going to make a new sub because of how shit this sub has gone down. Tell the other mods to do their fucking jobs. What? Dude, you need to enforce more than just Rule 1. This place isn't even being used for cursed images most of the time now. Just people posting their shitty memes and photoshopped images. How about removing the 99 reposts cluttering this sub for several days at a time? In before, 5 days later, the mods go back to hibernating. This sub is cursed administration with all the non-cursed images leaking through the news section. Cursed not banning non-cursed images, oh god the mod got inside help. Guess not. It appeared that the new mod team was already inactive, and even the ones who were inactive weren't willing to take a hardline stance on irrelevant content, which was the main thing that the community was clamoring for to begin with. At this point, it looked like r/cursed images was doomed to be a depository for vaguely weird images and shitty memes, unable to fight back against the tide of the general Reddit populace. But the most involved members of the community still weren't ready to give up. It was on September of 2018, 2 months later after the original Cursed Note, that your boy Tom returned, this time under the username Cursed Patrol, and he was here to start a movement. In a now deleted post, he declared that he was on a mission to fix the subreddit, and the way he would go about doing this was by grading posts in the comment section on a scale of 0 to 100% cursed. In essence, if the community put trust into his scale, it would almost be a return to the sort of curation that ensured the quality of the original accounts. So from this point, Cursed Patrol would always be found in the comments section, giving grades on cursed images. And if he wasn't there, users would usually tag him to request a grade. And for the posts that didn't quite make it, he wasn't a dick about it. He would go and suggest other subreddits that were more relevant for the post. So a small cult of personality starts to form around Cursed Patrol, and pretty soon, there's a bunch of other people making cursed accounts, trying to help out with the grading. And it was one of Cursed Patrol's acolytes, a user named Cursed Judge, who would go on to create a subreddit called the Cursed Courtroom. The Cursed Courtroom was a subreddit where all of the cursed accounts would meet together in a cursed congregation and discuss the meta of cursed content. It was from that point forward that all the cursed accounts under the organization of Cursed Judge would work to clean up the subreddit one comment section at a time. But here's the tricky thing about Reddit. You see, even though most of the people in the comments section were on board with the cursed accounts, in general, most people who use Reddit simply don't look at the comments. Most people just look at the images, maybe leave an upvote, then move on. Half the time, they're not even sure what subreddit the image actually came from. So even with all of these accounts helping me out and the whole community on board with it, fighting this battle in the comments section without the mods' help was a losing battle. And this right here is where we reach the next stage of a subreddit's life cycle: fragmentation. At this stage, there's typically a bunch of new subreddits made hoping to recapture the glory of the original. And boy did r/cursed images fragment. We had r/cursed images, r/super cursed images, r/cursed.
I just realized my sniper doesn't actually show that it's pack-punched at all. That's lame. It's fucking triple packed. Yeah, no, there's no signification whatsoever that this is a pack-punched weapon.
Curse times 10 images, curse times 100 images. There were so many new cursed subreddits that a user named Cursed Knowledge drew a map. And of course, as is usually the case, none of these subreddits ever reached the success of the original. No matter how good the content is, you're just going to lose most of the people when you move. That's just how Reddit works. So the real name of the game, if you wanted to save cursed images on Reddit, wasn't to grade things in the comments section or make a new subreddit. What you really needed was to get the cursed accounts on as mods. But the problem was, at this point, Bangfu, the originator of the subreddit, only one with permission to add new mods, was gone. There were several attempts, both by the cursed accounts and by regular users in the community, to coax them out of hiding. And there were tons of posts complaining about the mods that were there, posts complaining about other posts, posts complaining about the state of the subreddit in general, and eventually this sentiment would culminate in a post by a user named Cursed Toxic. And although this post too has now been deleted, I'm told that the title was something to the effect of Cursed stopped reposting memes, stop posting uncursed images, and try to make this sub better or it will die. Definitely a post for r/title gore, but this post struck a chord with the community. In fact, it gained over 12,000 upvotes. It seems like maybe the sloppiness of this rant was just something that perfectly encapsulated the community's frustration. And the funny thing is that even though Cursed Toxic's post was just a reiteration of all the complaints that had been going on month after month after month, this was the one that made something happen. And I say this because a few hours later, Cursed Judge received this message. I have noticed your involvement in the community and I would like to offer you a moderator position on r/cursed images. Please let me know your response as soon as possible. I have been quite busy with my personal life and it is becoming difficult to moderate such a large sub. I am open to any ideas and I would like to extend an invitation to your team of fellow Cursed. I thought I had a well-suited mod team, but they seem to become inactive after a while. Kind regards, Bangfu. Months upon months of raiding posts in the comments section, creating new subreddits, meeting up in the Cursed courtroom, and it was just one pissed off sloppy rant that got everyone what they wanted. And of course, Cursed Judge accepted the offer. We did it. The people have spoken and the old gods have heard our call. I have just accepted the moderator request. Now, due to the new powers at my disposal, some minimal things will need to change. What will be changing? Due to me being able to directly affect the fate of things, I do not want me to be the absolute final say, and that's it. As you all have seen on several occasions, I do make mistakes in my judgments occasionally, so if an image is found to be constitutional, it will be moderator approved. If an image is found to be neutral or lower, I will allow a 30-minute period for the OP or others to contest my judgment in an attempt to bring it above the cursed threshold. However, if the OP is immediately hostile and not willing to discuss politely, it will be immediately removed. I, obviously, will no longer be saying to downvote or report due to that being no longer necessary. I may be missing something that will be changing, but do not worry. I am not power hungry, and since the people are the reason I'm here, I will not suddenly ignore them. Have a wonderful day. I know I am. It's time for this subreddit to return to its former glory. Today, if you visit r/cursed images, you're greeted by a pinned post outlining what does and does not make an image cursed. A rubric is finally in place so that the quality of the subreddit can be upheld. Deep fried memes, face swaps, weird food, get the fuck out of here with that. But all that being said, did it actually work? Let's compare some of the top posts from before and after the mods. Cursed Defense versus Cursed Alley. Cursed Cereal versus Cursed Hit. Cursed Sweater versus Cursed Hockey. You be the judge, I'll put a poll up on a card. Anyway, I'd like to thank Cursed Judge for his help with this video. He answered all of my questions about it and helped fill in the blanks with the deleted posts. I'll link his YouTube channel in the description. And if you like this
I think
video, you'll probably also like my video.
I have everything I need.
Many mystery Reddit safes. I'm out of here. $10,000 scrap. What? When
Can't.
Silent Hill first came out, I think a lot of people expected it to be some kind of cheap imitation of Resident Evil. Those games being as successful as they were, I think it became pretty clear that survival horror was here to stay. But while most of the imitators are largely forgotten about, Silent Hill, despite, Konami doing Konami things, maintained a legacy that's lasted nearly 20 years. What made Silent Hill so different was that it took a vaguer, more supernatural and atmospheric approach to horror. It left a lot to the imagination, and this vagueness led to a lot of discussion and fan theories, and not just, the lame kinds of fan theories you usually hear for everything about how all the main characters are really dead, or, every character is secretly Jesus. Those kinds of theories for Silent Hill do exist, but they exist for basically everything. Meanwhile, Silent Hill is also host to a lot more complex theories. Like the idea that Silent Hill is the nexus point for a bunch of different parallel dimensions. Or that Pyramid Head is actually the good guy. Or how about the theory that Walter Sullivan, the main antagonist from Silent Hill 4, who first was mentioned in Silent Hill 2 as a serial killer, fell into his villainous ways because, as a child, he was circumcised. Now, the circumcision theory, first posited by the Silent Hill wiki, is not one of the more widely accepted theories about the game, but it is certainly the most infamous. Find out why on this episode of Tales from the Internet.
I kind of just want to go to 50.
By my own damn merch store where I've got a brand new design up where I've got tentacles.
No, I don't.
Oscar Mayer wieners are all meat.
I'm gonna be honest, I kinda hate fan theories. Most video game fan theories are usually just these massive reaches that it sounds like something that came from people who had their brains ruined by high school English class. They're usually pretty ridiculous, but every once in a while you'll come across a theory that's just so outlandish that you just gotta take a step back and appreciate it. Enter the Silent Hill circumcision theory. It was first posited on the Silent Hill wiki in December of 2015 by a user named Alex Shepard. Possible circumcision. Judging by a visit in St. John's Hospital, it is also possible Walter had his genitals, in parentheses, penis, mutilated as a baby via circumcision, also known as male genital mutilation. There are some who theorize and compare circumcision to a dark, ancient, satanic/occult mutilation blood flesh ritual, as well as being connected to the Illuminati, which could have led to Walter's psyche becoming influenced by the occult of the order. And when boys become circumcised, it acts a covenant to the dark forces on the planet and enters a pact with Satan. They also believe it is disguised as a necessary medical practice, and some doctors are satanic/Illuminati puppets. Others believe that circumcision can harm the bond between mother and son, and a man's ability to love and bond with a woman. Circumcision can have an extreme influence on the psyche and have negative effects on the development of the human psyche because a baby's brain is extremely affectable vulnerable and susceptible to pain. Circumcision can scar a baby for life into adulthood and harm the healthy development.
Okay then. Am I gonna get like 30,000 because of extra XP? So I'm pretty sure there's extra XP within that. Yeah. Wait. What the fuck? Bruv. There's no way. What? I got 100,000 XP. When was this screenshot taken? Was this just yesterday? No, 2 days ago. This was 2 days ago. Just with the 20, I was level 39, getting like 62,000. This time round, I'm leaving 30 rounds in. And getting twice, in 10 rounds I got twice the amount of XP. I don't know, they say going or doing late rounds is not worth it. You get less XP. I don't like any of these, honestly. I want to see finger guns though. How's this shit going? Well, I'm gonna go take a break now, and I'll probably be back on in an hour or two.